All right, hello guys and people and everyone and all of you. It is time. Are you ready to end this semester? I bet you are ready. Let's do this. This is the last assignment. As I said earlier, I'm not calling this an essay. It is an essay, but I'm not calling it an essay because it's not brand new. In fact, what you're going to be doing is going back and doing some things with stuff you've already done. That's why this one is called Assignment for Revision and Expansion. You're going to go back to one of the first three essays that by now you should have finished, and you're going to do some new stuff with them. So it's not a from scratch essay, it's not a brand new thing, it's just doing brand new things to things you've already done. So maybe it won't be as hard, but it's definitely practicing some good skills I think you guys need as you move on into Comp 2 and all that good stuff. So here's the deal, 100 points, just like the other ones. A little bit longer here. You see that 5 to 7 pages minimum. Due by midnight on whatever the date is on your syllabus. Check that and see what that says. And it's going to be on Turnitin.com, of course, as always. Here's what you're going to do for our final assignment. You will revisit one of the topics from the first three essays, and you remember those well, of course. That was the ad analysis essay, the trouble with television analysis, or the music lyrics analysis, which you probably just finished up, right? And what you're going to do is revise and expand upon the essay that you turned in order to build on your revision skills. You're going to be required to add new external sources to your original essay to expand on the points you already made. You are certainly welcome to start from scratch if you didn't like for instance, maybe you want to do essay number 1, you hated the ad that you ended up picking, but you went with it anyway. But you still want to go back to that one. You can go with a brand new ad to start, and you'll add another one to it. Or if you wanted to pick a brand new song to start with for the third one, whatever. It doesn't have to be building on the last essay, but what I imagine most of you guys will likely work with what you began with, just because it's easier and hey, it's already there, right? Why not? But the grade for this assignment will not be based, as I say here, not be based on or averaged was the original grade you received. This also does not replace doing revisions. If you guys remember want to revise any of the first three essays for more points, you still can do that. You have till the end of the semester. That would be working with the parameters of the original essay, obviously. But you can start with something new. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So here are your three choices. This one is totally up to you. I'm not going to force it on you. You get to have three completely wide open choices here for you all. This is, before I go any further, and I am going to break some stuff down, but this is going to be a shorter video than the other introduction ones, just because I don't have as much to say. One, because we've already gone over the parameters for these three basic assignments, right? Because you already wrote them. But two, you guys all have totally different choices, and this is the hardest one for me to say in kind of general to everybody do this, because you all are going to have different things that you're doing. So this is definitely one to reach out to me about specifically if you have questions, you have things you want to run by me, you have topics to address with me. There is going to be a discussion board topic where you will propose what topic you're going to write about. That'll be coming up pretty soon. But here's the three choices. Here's what you have to choose from, and I'll talk about these in more detail in just a second. But you ready? Here we go. For essay number 1, if you choose it, you're going to be required to locate another ad in addition to the one that you already chose, assuming you're not going to start from scratch, to add to the discussion of the techniques and tricks of print ads, which is what essay 1 was all about, right? The new ad, so you're going to be talking about a minimum of 2. You could add a third, I guess, but honestly, I think 2 is enough. 2 should get the job done. The new ad can, if you want, it could be from the same company. So let's say you pick a Coke ad from this year, and that was your print ad that you chose. Maybe you could pick like a Coke ad from like 1972, and compare and contrast the different things that Coke has done over the years if you want to. Or it could be a totally different company, a totally different product, but it uses similar tricks. Maybe they both use like color really effectively, but one is for Nike and the other one is for Honda or something like that, right? But there should be some correlation between the two ads you can use to draw the connections. They shouldn't just be two totally random slapped together ads. There should be something that you can compare and contrast between the two so that the discussion that you have is able to kind of stay coherent and stuck together, okay? You should also, in addition to that, look into finding and utilizing other outside sources related to advertising to help your analysis. I'm going to ask that you find maybe like at least one source related to, well, anything. It could be related to the product or the company. but maybe even more effectively related to advertising, marketing strategies, some of the stuff that we already kind of talked about. See if you can find an article online or something that you can utilize in your discussion of what you're talking about. Okay, that's choice number one. Choice number two, you remember, was the Marie Wynne essay, The Trouble with Television. If you choose essay number two, you'll need to add to the analysis and argument of Wynne's points by finding another scholarly article or book about the same subject, which of course was effects of television on children and families. It can make a similar argument to Wynne's, or it could be a totally different or even an opposing argument that you can use to facilitate a debate about the topic. That could be interesting, right? Maybe you find an article that disagrees with Marie Wynne, and then you can kind of go back and forth between the two. Marie Wynne says this, and in contrast, here's what this person says, and kind of flip-flop back and forth. That could be interesting. Of course, you can also look for something more recent than 1987. Obviously, that's one of the things I suggested you guys write about. See if you can find an article that's been written more recently, say in the past, 2, 3, 4 years, or even one written right now, about television or screen time. Remember, obviously, we talked about how it's not just TV anymore. It's the many, many additions of technology that are out there now. But basically, you're going to want to find another, as I say, scholarly article, and I'll explain what I mean about that in just a second. But basically, you're going to now talk about not just Marie Wynne's information, but someone else's information or some other entity's information, and talk about how they combine or even work against each other. And that's cool too. Finally, choice number three is, of course, the music lyrics essay. And this one's going to be kind of similar to what I said for number one. It's going to require you to find at least another song. And as with essay number one, I wouldn't do more than three. I think two is probably enough. You're going to want to find another song to add to your analysis. And in this case, you could find another song by the same artist or band. And it could be, something that commonality between the songs. You could talk about the type of songwriting structure and the way that they kind of get their message out there. Or it could be another song entirely by a totally different group from a totally different era, but it's about the same message, or both. But you'll need to compare and contrast the two songs together, not as individual parts of your essay. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, because that's a big part of this assignment for sure. But, kind of like what we did with the samples when we started essay number three, when we looked at, say, those three songs from the 1969 to 1971, the Vietnam era, those three songs, like What's Going On and Imagine, for instance, right? The totally different songs, but also talking about a similar message during a similar and, in fact, identical era in two of the cases, right? So you could do something like that, or you could pick a song by the same artist, two songs by the same artist, and talk about what they're doing. Maybe something from early in their career, something from later in their career, and talk about how their message is changed or stayed the same, or how they get it across, whatever. Okay. But again, as with essay one, I'd like you guys to find some kind of external research on the subject to help with your analysis, something that adds to the topic of, in this case, messages. It could be research into the context of what the message is, all kinds of good stuff. Okay. And again, if you're feeling weird about this, I'll switch over to the whiteboard thing in just a second, and I'll talk more in detail about this. But again, choice is entirely yours. The choice is yours. And again, this is much more of an individual experience. So please keep in contact with me over the next few weeks as we end this semester. And I will give you more information, in fact, right now. But here's the handout. And again, you guys, as always, can get the handout from the Blackboard. Go ahead and download it and take a look at it, and double check on the syllabus when your specific due date is. And there's that. Let's switch over. Here we go. Let's talk about this. Revision and expansion is the name of the game here. And I want to talk about both of those things specifically before we get to the choices again that you guys have. Because revision and expansion aren't exactly the same thing. Let's talk about revision first. Well, first off, revision is one of the things that, as I said earlier in the semester, at the beginning of the semester, in fact, you guys have option to you if you wish to fix up any of the first three essays, make them better. But that kind of calls into question what that means when I say a revision. And when I say revision, it actually means a lot of different things. I think one of the things that people think of when they think of revision is just simple editing and proofreading. And that is definitely part of it. Those are not unimportant aspects of fixing up an essay. But honestly, in my mind, these are the least important things. Editing and proofreading is, going back and doing a spell check, looking for typos, looking for grammar errors, looking for sentence construction errors, looking for formatting errors, even organization, structural kind of things can be part of this as well. Did I misspell that word? Did I miss a comma? Did I forget to indent that paragraph? Does that sentence have a comma splice or something like that? I'm not going to say those aren't, important things. They are, but they, to me, are the least important things, unless it's so terrible that I can't understand, or the person reading your essay can't understand what you're trying to say. A few typos here or there. I'll say this: now, if you've gotten a lower grade than you were expecting any time in this semester, it certainly wasn't because your commas were misplaced. I probably pointed it out if they were, but that didn't take off a massive amount of points, maybe one or two here or there. So editing and proofreading is important, and yeah, you do want to take a fine-tooth comb and look over your essay, especially if English is not your first language, or if you have always had issues with spelling or grammar. You want to, practice that stuff and make sure that your writing is exactly what you want it to be, because fair or not, people reading your work will certainly judge your ideas and thoughts and, arguments and thesis statements, not just on the content, but also on how it's actually put on the page. So you can have an amazing, amazing idea, but if it's full of spelling errors, then people are certainly going to, I'm not going to say ignore it, but they're less likely to take it as seriously. So be careful with this stuff for sure. But that's not really what revision is all about. Revision really is often more about things like content, and certainly, as I said, before, things like organization. And I mean that in both the big and the large, in the small sense, the large and the small sense. Content, things like, does it meet the criteria of the assignment? For instance, like in our class with essay number 2, sometimes I see people who, they write about television and families and children, but they never or barely at all mention Marie Wynn. It just ends up being an essay about TV and families, which is related to the topic. But remember, essay number 2 is all about, do you engage with the article itself? Can you argue for or against the specific points that she's making? What are those points, and what do you think about them, and what can you bring to the table to explain why you agree with or disagree with those points? If the essay itself never really gets into what Marie Wynn says, then that's not meeting the exact criteria of the assignment, right? Organization, and even, to a certain degree, length as well. Obviously essays have page counts for a reason. If it's a 3 to 5 page essay and you only get 2 pages, something's going on in your content, right? Something is not very detailed, or you're skipping past some things, or you're writing very small paragraphs, or all of the above, but things are missing, right? Organization, is it actually fitting what an essay structure is supposed to be? Do you have a specific thesis statement? Can you swing and hit that frying pan, or is it kind of left on the ground and you never pick it up? Do your body paragraphs all fall together in a way that makes sense? Do they all back up the thesis statement? Does each body paragraph focus on its own topic or idea? Lots of little things like that. When we're talking about revision, it's usually making sure that your essay is working as a machine, as this beast that you have tamed and controlled, that you can then unleash and release onto your essay, your essay's audience. That's mostly what revision stuff is really all about. The spell checks and stuff are important, sure, but this stuff, this is where it's really at. So revision, right, for sure, that's a big part of this assignment, is going back to those original ones. And if you needed to revise anything, then yeah, go ahead and fix that up. But what this assignment 4 is really, really about is this part, the expansion part. Adding to the existing information that you've got. Oops, that doesn't look very good. Finding, new sources, finding new angles, finding new analysis, comparisons, whatever. You're expanding upon something that already exists. So if, again, you're going to take essay number 1, let's say, and a lot of people do pick that one for this assignment. If you're going to take that was, remember, originally only a 3 to 5 page required essay, and now it's going to be 5 to 7 pages. So that means at minimum, you're probably going to be adding 2 pages to what you already wrote about, right? So of course, then you're going to have to add to and expand what you worked with. Now, here's where I want to point something out that I mentioned this kind of briefly when we were going through the handout. Please make sure that this essay is not just about sandwiching on or tacking or stapling on another essay to what you already have. This is all about combining, analyzing together, with the old information. So as an example, I wouldn't want you guys to, for instance, just open up, let's say you're doing essay number one, you wouldn't just open up your document for essay number one that you already typed, you already turned in, you already got a grade on, and then you just scroll down to the end of those 3 pages, put your cursor there, and then say, another ad that I found, and then write 2 more pages about another ad, and then hit print, basically, or hit save, right? That's not what I'm asking you to do at all. I'm not asking just add a couple more pages of, a semi-related extra bit of essay. Your thesis is going to have to mention both ads in that example. Your body paragraphs, let's say body paragraph 1 is about color. You're going to want to talk about both the color in your first ad as well as your new ad. Go back and forth. The color in my first ad is used this way. In comparison, it's used similarly. The color red is used in a similar way in ad number 2, and here's how they both use them, or here's how it's used differently. My first ad uses no color at all. That's very different than my other ad, which uses a rainbow of colors. And here's why they decided to do that differently or separately, whatever. There needs to be a combination of the 2 things, right? With the second one, okay, here's what Marie Wynn says, and here's what the news source says. These are similar. These are different ideas. My first song has a quote that says this. This is very similar to another part of my second song, which says this. And these both help convey the message because, or they both talk about this particular topic and this reason, etc., etc. Okay, it shouldn't just be part 1, part 2, and they just happen to be Frankensteined and stuck together, sewed kind of awkwardly, and then hit save, okay? So that's a big, big part of this assignment is that you find a way to combine them, to utilize what both, both ads or both, articles or books or both songs or whatever, you're using them together, and it's not just these 2 separate things that got kind of, taped together and awkwardly glued, and it just doesn't feel like a full coherent essay, okay? So that's where the new stuff comes in, right? And that's what I mean when I say expansion. It's not just there's a couple more pages of some stuff. It's the whole essay. You're going to want to go back through the whole essay, each paragraph, each sentence even, and think about what is my new information going to do? How can I bring the new information in this paragraph with this sentence, with my thesis, of course, and all that, okay? Does that make sense? If that doesn't make sense, reach out to me, please, because I want to make sure that that's totally clear, because that is a really major part of this assignment and how it can fall apart. And I haven't seen too many people do that. Hopefully I've been warning people away from that pretty well. But it's definitely possible, and I definitely have seen it. So be careful. Be careful with that. Let me go through the choices real quick. I know I already did, but here's the options one more time. Number 1, again, is the ad analysis. So you're going to add an ad. Let's say a new ad. To your existing analysis. Again, that's assuming you're not starting from scratch, which you are more than welcome to do. If you want to find 2 brand new ads and write about those 2 brand new ads, have at it. That is totally okay with me. But as I said, I assume most of you guys will be working with what you already have. And if you pick number 1, you're probably going to take your first essay, take your first ad, and keep building on the analysis that you've already written about. And that's fine. That's exactly what I'm asking you guys to do, so that's cool. Yeah, add a new ad. Again, it could be something that it could be the same company or the same product. As I said, even finding 2 ads from totally different eras. If you've got a product that's been around for a long time, I'm going to do Nike. I want to find an ad for Nike from the mid 1980s versus one from the mid 2000s. And here's this 20-30 year difference between those 2 ads, and here's how Nike's advertising has changed over the years. Here's how it's been the same. Here's what they used back then. Here's why. Maybe Nike's ads were much more detailed back then, and they're less so now because they're much more of a household name. Whatever, who knows? It's up to you. But it could be the same company or product if you want. Or it could be, again, just sort of like some of the same, let's say, or same kind of tricks. question mark, Eric, because it's up to you. You know, two totally different companies, but they use similar tricks. They both use models in the same way. Or maybe you could find, you know, someone like Jennifer Aniston, who is a celebrity that uses her endorsement, or Shaquille O'Neal, who endorses many different products. Right? Here's a skin moisturizer ad that Jennifer Aniston is on, and also here is a vitamin water or whatever water ad that she's also totally different companies, and yet they used exactly the same celebrity. And here's how they photographed her for the skin moisturizer as opposed to the water ad, and they emphasize this with the lotion and this with the water, and even though it's the same person. I'm brainstorming. I'm just coming up with ideas on the fly right here, but you know, what are they doing? What's going on? But again, there should be something you can connect. It shouldn't just be, here's a random Ford ad from 1985, and here is a macaroni and cheese ad from 2019. And there's nothing similar about them at all, except that they're both print ads. That's not going to carry the essay, okay? So something that it can be, you know, compared in some way. Now, a big thing to note about this one is that the thesis statement this time around doesn't have to be the same as it was the first time that we did this. You certainly can if you want to, and it can certainly be a discussion of how effective and or successful the ads are. But it doesn't have to be that as much this time as, you know, again, just kind of comparing how the tricks work and how two different companies or two different ads from the same company are utilizing print ad tricks and you know, psychology and all the stuff that we talked about. So your thesis can be different this time around. You're not stuck with the my ad is or is not successful thesis statement query that I gave you guys the first time around. That's another way in which this is expanded, right? If you want to talk about how both are successful, that's okay, but it doesn't have to be, right? And then, as I said, I'd like you to add some kind of outside research. Something, an article or maybe even a book if you can find one, something that isn't just, you know, a random website. It should be, as I said in the second one, something kind of scholarly. If you guys know what that means when I say scholarly, that means something that is, you know, published. It's not just a random website that anybody can put things onto. You guys know the internet. It's the wild, wild west, and anybody can put whatever information they want to out there for the most part. You know, has it been published? Has it been reviewed? Is it, you know, does it have statistical statements in it? Is it something that has data that can be backed up? Is it something that isn't just, you know, someone's opinion or idea? It's something you can actually sink your teeth into and apply, you know, even if it's just like a study or some case studies or examples or whatever. Find something that you can apply to, in this case, your ad analysis. It could be marketing research, it could be advertising strategies, it could just be a look at print ads in general, or it could be related to the specific company that you're talking about, or any of those. There should be at least one source that you find. If you want to find more, that's okay. All right. And I'm not asking you guys to do like really deep dive, hardcore citation for this either. You're going to get that hopefully next semester for you in Comp 2. You know, you obviously need to at least let me know where it's from in the text of your essay, according to you know, an article from the New York Times, or according to research done by the Harvard Medical Research Group, or something along those lines. If you know how to do like really specific citation, like MLA citation with a works cited page and all that stuff, then yeah, totally go for it. If you don't do it correctly, I'm not taking points off because I'm not requiring it, because I'm not teaching it to you guys, but you'll definitely get it next semester. And it'll definitely be something that's part of the research process when you get there. At the very least, I just need to see where it's from, and how you do that is up to you. As long as I can tell where it's from and it's not just random information that just pops up, or it doesn't say something like, you know, research has found, or a study shows that. A study and research are not specific enough. I don't know what study or research you mean. So, you know, just say where it's from and you'll be okay. Okay, that's choice number one. Let's say here, or number two, and number two is, of course, the television one. And this time you're going to add a new source related to the television and family topic. That you can then compare with Wynn's essay. Marie Wynne, The Trouble with Television from 1987 that we spent all that time talking about, right? Now you're going to want to find something that is also about how television and families coexist, or how television can affect the family, or how parents can misuse the use of television, or whatever. And again, it could either agree with Marie Wynne, it could be updated information. You could maybe even see, hey, maybe Marie Wynne has published something else. I haven't seen anything myself, but maybe she's updated her information since 1987, or somebody else has, or anything. Or like I said, it could be totally different. It could totally disagree with Marie Wynne. You could find somebody who says, I mean, not that you find an article that is directly disagreeing with Marie Wynne herself, but just the ideas. Marie Wynne isn't the first person, and she certainly won't be the last person to talk about those kinds of things. Maybe somebody else has something that talks about, the positivity of television and how television is something that parents should be using, or I don't know, again, anything. It's totally up to you guys. But again, it should be something scholarly. It should not just be, someone's blog or a Facebook post or a meme, or, you know what I mean? Something, for the most part, a lot of .coms are not going to get the job done. It needs to be something that, again, has been published and has been looked at and reviewed and works well. And by the way, the school's library website has a lot of this stuff. I wouldn't say for free, because you paid tuition to be here, but your tuition has paid for your access to things like academic journals and databases, where you can search through the library's website and find lots of really cool sources at your fingertips just through your computer. Reach out to people at the library, send them an email. There's librarians there that are itching to help you out. That's their job. Say, hey, I'm writing an essay on television and families, and I was hoping you could help me find an article or an academic journal that covers this kind of stuff. And those kinds of sources are fantastic. You can find a lot of good information that way. But in this case, you're just expanding on the television family topic. Now, again, in relation to the thesis, it doesn't have to be about whether you agree or disagree. And as I said, you can even pick two articles that disagree with each other. You could say, here's what Wynne says, and here's a different article that says the exact opposite. You wouldn't have to pick sides. You wouldn't have to say, I agree or disagree. You could just say, hey, let's take a bigger look at this topic with television and family. I'm still going to use Marie Wynne as a source, but here's this extra source now to talk about. Up to you. Totally up to you. Again, there's a lot of up to you kind of things going on here, but that's the second choice. And then finally, or number 3, which is the one that is most fresh to you all, because you all have just been working on this one. It's the music lyrics one. In this case, of course, you're going to now add another song. And again, this could either be to your existing analysis, as I said over here, or it could be a total reboot. Again, if you want to start, if you didn't end up liking the song that you wrote about and you want to find a totally different song and then add another new song on top of it, that's up to you. But, let me know what you find and what you want to do. But as I said, most people will probably stick with their first song and then find something else. And again, it can be the same artist. And you take a look at how one artist or group or band or singer or vocalist or whatever you want to call it has tackled. It could be totally different messages, it could be totally different topics, but you could talk about how they have taken on those things and how their lyrics help convey those messages. Or it could be 2 songs with the same message that are totally different artists. Here's a song about heartbreak and love, and here's another song about heartbreak and love, and yet these 2 artists have totally different ways of talking about it, of mentioning it, of getting the message across, and let's compare and contrast the lyrics back and forth. But again, as before, it has to be something that you can compare. They shouldn't be completely, massively different songs. There has to be some kind of link between them. Somehow, some way, okay? And as before, again, some kind of outside research. I would imagine for most of you, the research for this path would be related to the context of the song or the time or the artist. You may have already done some. I encouraged you guys to do this for essay number 3. It wasn't a requirement, but if you did some research already into the context, cool. Then you can, find something else and add to what you've got along those lines. But what can you bring to the table from outside and start playing around with it? Those are your choices, everybody. 1, 2, or 3. It's up to you. Whichever one spoke to you more. Maybe you really liked essay 1 a lot more than the other ones and you want to go back to it. Or maybe you just felt like you wanted another chance to do better with essay number 2, or number 3 is, you had fun with it and you just finished writing about it, so it's fresh in your mind and you're ready to jump back in. It's up to you. Actually, I was pretty surprised. I haven't been doing this assignment for a really very long time. This is still, I'm not going to say experimental, but it's still kind of in its infancy. So I haven't seen a huge amount of these essays yet, but I was actually surprised for the groups that I have seen how varied the numbers were as far as the choices here. I kind of thought more people would maybe do 1 or 3, but I actually got a pretty even split between all 3 of these choices, which is great for me, because when I'm sitting there reading essay after essay, it's nice to have some variation. But you go with whatever you want. I'm not going to try to influence you. Whichever one you thought was best, whichever one you had most fun with or most interest in, whichever one just sounds more interesting to go back and start playing around with again. But that's it. That's all I have to say as far as kicking this one off. If you have questions, let me know. But again, take a look. The discussion board will pop up soon for you guys to propose to me a topic. And all I want to hear from you there is which of these choices you're making and what you plan to add to what you already have. Assuming you're going to work with what you already have. Maybe you want to start from scratch. Let me know that as well. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's doing the right thing and has some good ideas. And if you get a thumbs up from me, then you can proceed. And that'll take us to the end of the semester. We are almost done. There's one more video, final video. It's going to be taking a look at a couple of sample essays, which are already on the Blackboard. If you want to download those and read them before the next video, please do. In fact, you should, because I'm not going to read them in the video. I'll just talk about them. And that'll be it. So, as far as everybody all at once, this is we're nearing the end. It's all individual from here on out. So you guys reach out to me and let me know how things are going. I hope this semester is going okay for everybody. Wish I could be in a classroom talking to everybody, but that's the way that we're doing things right now. So that's just how it goes. Cool. There you go. That's assignment number 4. Hope it makes sense. If not, you know where to find me. I'm glad to explain this all over again if need be. And if you guys want to do Zoom chats with me, reach out. I've done a lot of those this semester, but not as many as I thought I would. Definitely, if you want to have a one-on-one FaceTime chat with me, I'm glad to give you the time as long as it meets both of our schedules. Happy to help, happy to see your face and talk. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.